Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Money Mondays podcast. As you guys know, for the last 2 years, 99% of these episodes are inside of an RV motorhome. But our special guest happens to be in town from New York City. He came to LA. I'm in LA. Bada bing, bada boom. We end up here on this couch at the W Hotel in Hollywood, inside of the podcast studio, brought to you by the Content CEO. Now, Mr. Michael Chernow. As you guys know, we cover 3 core topics: how to make money, how to invest money, how to give it away to charity. This gentleman has already exited multiple restaurants. He's building a business that I'm an investor in because I'm passionate about, 1, founders have already built up companies. 2, founders that are passionate about their product. 3, someone that can actually build something that people care about. And 4, someone that can actually scale it. So we're going to dive into all those core topics. But first, Mr. Michael Chernow, can you give a quick 2-minute bio so we can get straight to the money?
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
My name is Michael Chernow. I'm an entrepreneur. Started my career about 15 years ago opening up a restaurant called the Meatball Shop in New York City. Had no idea what I was doing, but knew that I wanted to do something. And I was in the restaurant business, so I said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Opened up the Meatball Shop. It took off like crazy, scaled it to 7 stores, exited that, kept a little piece, launched a second restaurant concept called Seymour's, did the exact same thing, scaled it to 7 restaurants.
Wow. And
exited that, kept a little piece. So now I own a significant piece of both businesses, but I sit on the board. And in 2019 or early 2020, I knew that I was going to open up another restaurant. The pandemic hit, and as entrepreneurs, you know what we do. We pivot when we have to.
Yep.
And I knew that I wasn't going to open up a restaurant in the middle of the pandemic or the beginning of the pandemic, so I pivoted and created Kreatures of Habit, which is a wellness brand rooted in nutritional healthy habits. We launched with the oatmeal that I had been eating as my first meal of the day for, at that point, 16 years.
Wow.
And that's it. We created this business. I pitched it to Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary thought it was a really cool idea, specifically in the time that we were in. He was the first investor. He introduced me to you. You guys came in, and here we are 3.5 years later, slinging lots and lots and lots of oatmeal.
So it was interesting because, Gary and I have known each other for many years. It was the first time that he sent me like the bat signal. He was like, I really like this one. Obviously Gary gets a zillion deals put in front of him. He only picks and chooses a few that he actually invests into and joins the board of. So for him, I took it seriously that he messaged me about it. And so I rallied the troops. We obviously did a round with you, invest into the company. And now you've just been scaling and scaling and scaling. And what I like best is like your passion for the product. You mentioned you've been eating it for 16 years. That's really rare for an entrepreneur to actually be that passionate about their core product. And that was why I jumped, 1, because it was Gary Vee, obviously, but 2, because you really care about it. Where did that come from? Why is oatmeal in the morning so important?
You get 1 day to put numbers on the board. What happens yesterday is long gone, and tomorrow's not necessarily guaranteed. So how you start your day is ultimately going to paint a picture, typically, of what the rest of the day is going to look like. Human beings need food to survive. It is one of the most intimate relationships we have. And it's also one of the most difficult relationships we have. And my story is, I spent 10 years of my life in addiction. And I made a decision when I was 23 years old, a little over 20 years ago, to get sober. When I got sober, I was introduced to this world of wellness. And it wasn't called wellness 20 years ago, but it basically, I was introduced to a guy who basically took me by the back of my neck and was like, I am going to show you a different way. And he introduced me to nutrition. And for me, I needed a win. Like, I just needed a win. I had no idea where that win was going to come from, but it came in the form of nutrition and fitness. That's how I was able to control my wins. There's very few wins you can control on a daily basis, right? Like, we all know big wins take an army, and if you can figure out a few little wins to kick your day off with, it just builds confidence. Confidence builds courage, and that's how I've built my life. So I just knew that when this guy told me to eat oatmeal in the morning, I never thought it would be a business,
right.
But I just knew that I needed a little win in the morning, and a healthy, satiating meal was what that did for me. And it came in the form of oatmeal, so I just stuck with it. And the fact of the matter is, the business is called Kreatures of Habit with a K. It's called Kreatures of Habit because when we find something that works over and over and over again, you stick with it. And it essentially creates freedom in your life. I never have to think about what I put into my body in the morning. ever. It's like people spend time thinking about breakfast. People spend time thinking about how I'm going to get a bunch of protein into my diet. People spend time thinking about a healthy meal. Like, what do I eat in the morning? I just never think about that. And now there's thousands of people that are, subscribed to this product that also just never think about what they're going to put. Oh my gosh. Hey guys, I'm on a podcast. Love you. I'll call you back. Sorry, it's my kids.
You can FaceTime them in.
But when I was thinking about what was the next thing, it literally just popped up for me. I was like, authenticity and story is ultimately what creates community and business, right? Like, community is what carries a lot of you. Like, your whole entire business is built on a community of people that look to you and follow you for years. And so I just knew that I can create a community around this, and that's why oatmeal was like what we did.
So pre-oatmeal, you open up 7 restaurants and 7 restaurants again. There's this thing in people's minds that 90% of restaurants fail, especially the first location. How did you get from past that first location to number 2 to get up to 3 and then eventually get up to 7 twice?
Again, I have to bring it back to authenticity. Like I grew up working in restaurants, and when it came time for me to do it, I had no fear because I was so passionate about what we were doing, and I knew that I was going to be able to tell a story when people walked into the restaurant. And of course, right, like there is a little bit of luck involved, sure. Right? Timing, luck, like things like that are real. And the time that we were in, it was coming out of the pit of a recession. Daniel, my partner, and I were like, dude, we have to create a recession-proof business. So we knew that if we came out the gate with something unique, fun, almost like a little nostalgic to evoke some emotion, and inexpensive, we had we had a story to tell. And we hired a publicist. Publicist really sat with us, understood the story, was able to tell the story, and I learned very quickly that if you're doing it for money, if money is the primary goal, chances are you're going to fail. Most people that open up restaurants are like, A, they think it's cool, right? Like they're like, oh, I want to be a part of this cool thing. B, they think restaurants make money. They fucking don't make money. If you're not insanely diligent about, the margin is so slim in the restaurant world. Most restaurants fail because people don't know how to be diligent about a P&L in a restaurant. And so for us, we had a story to tell, and the story got told really well, and the media loved it. And, we projected to do $1 million in that restaurant year 1, and we did $4 million.
$4 million out of one restaurant?
Out of $4 million out of a 36-seat restaurant with a $17 check average.
What?
It was insane. And we paid our investors back in 6 months.
Whoa.
And, there were lines, I'm not exaggerating when I'm telling you, the day we opened the meatball shop, there was 250 people standing outside of the restaurant. It went to the corner of Stanton Street and Allen, all the way to the corner of Rivington Street. It basically wrapped a full city block, and
a New York City block.
A New York City block, and that line just didn't slow down. It didn't slow down, and we were doing it because we were passionate. Like you said to kick off the podcast, you invest in entrepreneurs that are passionate about what they do, and I can't do something that I'm not passionate about. But when I'm passionate about something, I can't do anything else.
Wow.
So that was kind of it. We one of the initial investors, he was like, oh my God, you guys have paid back the full investment. He was like, boom, here's $3.5 million. Go open up stores, right. And just tell me what you need. We'll draw it down. And so Daniel and I just kind of hit the ground running, and we went out and we opened up a store in the West Village. Then we opened up a store in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Then we opened up a store in Chelsea. Then we opened up a store on the Upper West Side. Then we opened up a store on the Upper East Side. And then we opened up a store on 53rd Street and 9th Ave. And, we were just this is a wave. And we were young and hungry. And the two of us just went hard. Learned an enormous amount. I lost millions of dollars in that deal, millions and millions of bucks, because The two of us didn't know what we were doing, and Meatball Shop is still around, but we had a hard offer from a really, really legit private equity firm that wanted to take Meatball Shop like global. And we thought that we didn't need them.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
we got this.
And so I learned a lot. But what I ended up doing was I sold a bunch of my equity after that deal didn't happen, because I just knew that there was going to be friction there, because I wanted to get that deal done, and I couldn't convince Dan and the board that deal needed to be done. And so I ended up selling equity about a year later for unfortunately a fraction, but I still did well for my first business. And then I very quickly opened up the second concept, and I knew that I was able to make meatballs cool. I said I was going to do the same thing with sustainable seafood. I was going to take sustainable seafood. Economically for me, you think of a seafood restaurant, what do you think of? Salmon, tuna, halibut, cod, lobster, right? Like that's what you think of in a seafood restaurant. I said I'm going to bring super underutilized fish to the New York City market that swims local, because I found out that these fishermen on the East Coast were catching all these underutilized species of fish and then sending them to China and the UK for like pennies a pound. And I was like, well, if I can develop relationships with them, these fish are delicious. They just don't have a marketing campaign behind them, So I can buy this fish for $1 or $2 a pound, whereas other people are paying $18 to $27 for salmon or tuna. And I can dress them up. I can put them in fish tacos. I can put a really cool brand around it, just like I did with, like this is an oatmeal, dude.
Right.
This is oatmeal with protein, right? But it's about a brand. It's about a feeling. It's about an emotion that you create when somebody interacts with it for the first time. And so, I took these underutilized pieces of fish that I was paying, $1.50 a pound for, and created a really amazing atmosphere and a super awesome experience for people. And boom, we opened up, and we were the #1 restaurant in New York City for 9 months in New York Magazine.
Wow. It
just went bonkers. And I had no partners, but a guy that was a mentor of mine who was running the company Le Pain Quotidien. You know that brand? There's thousands of them around the country. He personally opened up over 1,000 stores. So he was a guy that I definitely wanted to get close to early on in my career. And he came to the opening night of Seymour's. And he experienced it for the first time. And that night, he wrote me an email and said, you came into my office about 8 months ago with a back of a napkin idea, the menu, the experience. You told me exactly what it was going to be. And I have never met somebody in my career of restaurants that explained a concept and then did exactly what they said they were going to do. And he was like, I want to leave Le Pain Quotidien and help you scale this thing.
Whoa. And
I was like, obviously the guy, this guy was like a guy that I was like, this is the guy, right? But I also knew that he was 15 years older than me. He had opened up about 996 restaurants more than I had. And if he were to come work with me, he would have to be my boss, right? And I just wasn't ready for that yet. So I said, Jay, I really appreciate it. Let me get my feet in the sand and like figure out what this brand is and understand like what the metrics have to be in order to scale. Because ultimately, if you come on, we're gonna scale this thing. Let me just figure this shit out on my own first, and I'll circle back with you in a couple of months to like let you know where I'm at. And he just kept knocking on the door. He would come to dinner once or twice a week, bring in other big wigs in the industry to show them what I had done. And about 7-8 months in, he showed up with like $7 million and was like, dude, I really want to do this with you. I've got a team that is ready to just invest in it. And I said to him, look, man, if you come in, I will have to take the president seat. You will have to take the CEO seat. And if we can scale this thing to 8 figures over the next 3 to 5 years, I would want you to buy my equity out. You can take it from 6 to 600. I would want to mitigate some risk and then create another brand, because that's what I love to do. And he was like, done. And so that's what we did, exactly to the T. And I sold him a bunch of equity in 2019. And I understand how to open up restaurants. Like that is something that I figured out how to do. I figured out how to create a brand that resonates with people in the world of restaurants, which is one of the hardest industries because everybody gets into the business thinking that it's cool to own a restaurant. The fact is that it's really hard because I always explain it like this. You walk into your favorite retail store for clothes, right? You want to go buy a pair of jeans. You know you're going to walk in there and spend $160, right? You walk in, maybe somebody greets you at the door, maybe they don't, but you know that you're going in for the jeans. You walk over to the rack, you grab your pair of jeans, you say, hey, where can I, is there a fitting room? You walk over to the fitting room, somebody takes you to the fitting room, so you interact definitely with at least one person there. You try on the jeans, you like the jeans, you bring them over to the cashier, you pay for the jeans, and you leave. So you've had 2 interactions for a $160 check. In a restaurant, you know exactly what you want. You're coming for your favorite dish, but you get greeted by a host. Host takes you to a table. Busboy brings you water. Server walks over to your table, takes your order. Server puts the order in, sends it over to the bar. 2 bartenders are behind the bar, that's 5. Server comes back to your table, takes your food order, sends it to the kitchen. That's 5 people in the kitchen, 10 people. You eat your food gets sent down to the dishwasher. 3 more people, 13 people. There's 2 managers on the floor, 1 in the front, 1 in the back. 15 people are involved in that same $160 transaction. That's the difference between the restaurant and most other businesses. It takes an army of people to pull it off. And so it's a human capital business, and human capital is like the hardest thing to manage,
So a few years from now, you sell Kreatures of Habit for $145 million. Would you get back into the restaurant game?
That is a great question. I love the restaurant business. And I think now that I've actually moved out of New York City, and I live in a really beautiful place in upstate New York. There's a lot of people like me that have actually vacated the city after, when the pandemic hit. And so the area is kind of littered with lots of really cool, creative people that wanted to get out of the city, but there's just not a place that is the place to eat there. There's a lot of cool, great restaurants. A lot of chefs have come up, but there's not like the spot. And so chances are, yes. My superpower is connecting with human beings at scale. It is what I do best. It comes absolutely naturally to me. I do not have to work at it. I love it. It wakes me up in the morning. Like, what drives me is meeting people and creating environments where people feel stoked about themselves and life. And I know that is like the best place for that. The best place to do that is in a restaurant, And so chances are probably. But yeah, I mean, this is the Kreatures of Habit right now came at the perfect time in my life. It really because it's given me an opportunity to tell my real story. I wasn't able to really tell my story of coming out of adversity and, building a life based on wellness, and then, everything that I've created in my life today is only because I've committed to this like life of better. And so this business has allowed me to tell that story, which has given me a bit of a platform to do that,
So why is it important to invest so much into brand? You have all these different colorways, different styles, graphics. That's expensive to come up with the feel and look of a brand. Why is it important to invest so much into branding?
The truth is that first impressions are important. They're important, and being able to fabric is not as important as creating an experience. And so typically, the brands we all know and love evoke feeling. They evoke feeling, and that's why you want to participate in it, right? Like Nike, Apple, they all have created this ability to make you feel a certain way about a pair of sneakers, about a phone. And in my opinion, brand and culture kind of stand together as sort of the pathway to success in business. And so I just know inherently, I think also maybe growing up in New York City and being in the epicenter of real sort of modern culture as a kid, seeing a lot of stuff, it was all brand. Brand is what moves people. Brand is what moves needles. And so every time I've created a business, brand has been sort of where I start. I start with brand and then kind of build everything underneath that.
So you have a passion for an industry that has multi-billion dollar players, right? You're up against Quaker Oats and some of the most humongous companies on the planet that own the shelf space. They own our minds, what's called top of mind awareness. Like, how do you fight versus the 800-pound gorilla like Quaker Oats?
They don't have the time to think about community. They just don't. And so I'm sure they know about us.
Of course. You're poking the bear.
Yeah, I'm sure they know about us, and they would much rather have guys like me who are just like ferociously passionate about community, do it, build it to a place where it's viable, and then knock on the door and say, yeah, we want you.
Right. And
so I'm not concerned about I had a meeting early on in my entrepreneurial career with a guy named Ron Shake, who is the founder of All Bon Pan and now Panera Bread. And I sat down with him at one of the meatball shops. And when we started the thing, there was, within the first 3 years, there was hundreds of meatball shop knockoffs around the globe. The Wall Street Journal wrote a huge piece about it. Like, these two guys started this restaurant in New York, and there's meatball restaurants everywhere now. And I said to Ron, as this was happening, probably like a year and a half in, I was like, how do we think about the competition? And he fucking flipped. He was like, competition? The second you spend thinking about your competition is a second you're not spending thinking about your business. Fuck the competition. Do what you're doing. Keep pushing forward. Don't waste your energy thinking about that, because if they're going to get you, they're going to get you. You got to spend all of your time focused on what you're doing. And, that I think was massive for me in my career, just to say, you know what, man, like, do it to the absolute best, put everything you've got into this thing, and the big guys will take note. And then they'll want a piece,
So when you're first starting up a brand and you want to go get the dream investor like Gary Vee, who could be number one, really, for most entrepreneurs, is what they want as a most strategic investor that you could get, right? Someone that has humongous social media following, humongous access to the planet, has a ton of data because he has like 2,800 employees within his own VaynerMedia. Like, that is pretty much the one for an entrepreneur. But he's got hundreds of deals pitched to him and hundreds of friends and acquaintances, thousands of acquaintances. Like, how do you stand out where he actually wants to put his name on something like this and get behind it in some fashion with his friends, his circle, his social, etc.?
I'm going to ask you a question. Putting Gary Vee aside, why did you invest in Kreatures of Habit?
You already had exit, so that was important to me because it reduces my risk that someone can build something to exit and you did it twice. So that's a big deal for me. The cool factor, right? Like, you have it. You as the entrepreneur founder, you are easily marketable. You are easily talked about. I can proudly message people and feel confident that you're going to go try to build this thing. And if it doesn't work out, I feel confident that I picked the right person, right? I picked the right horse to bet on because you've already done it. You like this thing. You've been eating it for many, many years. Like, everything about it has what I call the checklist. And the checklist to me is kind of like the four things I mentioned earlier. The founder is number one. Do I believe that this person cares, right? Number two, do other people care? And typically, I don't raise money or invest in a company that doesn't have sales. Typically, I have to do $2 million to $20 million revenue. We raised $56 million the last 3 years, only for companies doing $2 million, $20 million. You were the exception. You were just getting started, but it's you. And I believed in you, and you had the previous exits, and you had some interesting characters behind you already. And so we haven't made an exception since, by the way, and not once, besides you. 3, can this product sell in the wild when you're not there? Can this product sell on a shelf or on a website or on social media when the founders, executive staff, someone, the cheerleaders or not explaining what it is? Can it sell in the wild? And then 4 is, can you back it up? Meaning, can you explain to my CEO, my accountant, my lawyer, my advisors, why the things that you say are true? And can you back up what you're saying? I'm going to build this. I'm going to design this. That's great. Let's talk. Can you prove it to my lawyer, accountant, my CEO, and my advisor? And you had all the things across the board fast. Like that whole scenario was fast. Gary told me about it. I talked to you. We became friends. I asked some questions. I asked for a deck. Bada bing, bada boom. Everything about it was fast. And so my decision came from those 4 elements. But ultimately, I literally have never before, and I don't have any plans to do it after. I raised money for 17 companies in a row. I've never considered. When people message me that they were doing less than 2 million, it's not an option. And so you had all the it factors on the checklist, and then you did back it up. And then you did scale a company. You are doing millions of dollars in sales. You did it. And so to me, I'm proud about it. Whether it doesn't work out, becomes humongous, takes longer, I don't care. I made a bet on the person that cared.
I think. First of all, thank you for that. I think for anybody that's listening that is either an emerging entrepreneur or someone that's just looking to that's not an entrepreneur but just understand more about the business. I would just say 10 out of 10 investors that I've been lucky enough to work with over the years invest in me way before. Like most savvy investors know, you invest in a restaurant, you piss your money away. Most of them, right? So if there's not a strong person behind it that they believe will die on the hill, like I think that is what Gary knows about me. Because one of the first times I met Gary, he immediately had me on the Ask Gary Vee show. It was like I came into the office. I had a sneaky way of getting to Gary. He had launched Empathy Wines. I had 12, 13 restaurants in New York City. It was a D2C business. I was like, dude, I'm a New York City guy. You're a New Jersey guy. Like, I got a bunch of restaurants. You know my restaurants. Let me be the one guy to sell empathy in New York at retail, And he fucking shot me a DM right back, like, get your ass over to the office. I go to the office. We immediately hit it off. He's like, Tyler, boom, podcast.
Yeah, D-Rock, let's go.
And that was it. And we just did it. And that's how our relationship kicked off. And so I think what Gary saw is what I have been lucky enough to attract in other investors like you, which is, hey, I'm not the smartest guy at the table. I'm not the guy that's going to go build you out, all the models to tell you exactly what this business is going to do on a P&L for the next 4 years. But what I do know about a good entrepreneur is I might not have all the answers personally, but you bet your fucking ass I am getting you those answers. I am going to get you those answers expeditiously. Like, I'm really good at getting the answers. And I'm relentless. Like, I will not. Most people quit. Like 99.9% of the people quit when it gets tough, because it always gets tough. Mm-hmm. Like, there are how many times in your career have you been like, shit, this is
every day.
Yeah, this is not looking so good, right? Like, we got to figure this out now, right?
Even when everything's great and you're scaling, things are breaking.
Right. And so I've just, I think, some of the most, the necessary components of entrepreneurship is like insanely high threshold for stress, like abnormally high, and a relentless mindset. And, I'm going to die on the hill. Like, that's it. It's like it's not a negotiation. It's like no matter what comes down the pipe, you figure it out. And hopefully you're able to figure it out with the right people around you. You surround yourself with the right people. And so I think that's what Gary saw, that he kind of just saw the guy that was going to do that,
So walk us through Kreatures of Habit now. It's gone through its iterations, you've perfected it, and you're always going to keep adding features and products and things to it. Walk us through, where does it sit now and what's the plan? Where's it going?
So Kreatures of Habit is, we'll do roughly $5.5 million this year in our third full year of business. 70% of that revenue is driven through subscription. So that was the goal, right? We wanted to get people excited about the product, try it, and then subscribe. And so we made that super easy for people to do. I think, getting it, I think it's called a slippery funnel, right? Like you get people in, and then it's just really easy to get them to the goal, which is to subscribe. And so now, our business is really sort of it could be self-sustaining if we weren't so focused on new customers.
Sure.
So now the goal is we're doing something really interesting, which I told you about a couple of weeks ago. I'm big on community. I'm huge on community. And every business that I've built to date has been driven and held and supported by the community that participates. And so I was thinking about what is the coolest thing I can do with community? And I was like, I had heard of crowdfunding, but I'd never thought of crowdfunding. And then I just started doing research on crowdfunding. And I found out brands like Liquid Death did crowdfunding, and big brands. And the reason why they do it is because they have amazing communities. Mm-hmm. They have amazing communities that love what they're doing. And so I was like, you know what? Instead of going back to you guys and saying, hey, we're gonna go raise a bunch of money, why don't I allow the community to become owners in Creatures of Habit? Give the community that love this stuff, if you knew the conversations that I've had with customers, I spend a lot of my time calling customers. That is where I think my time is almost best spent. I literally will open up my computer 3 to 5 days, or 3 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, and just go down the list of people that have ordered. Really? And I call them, and I'm like, hey, I'm Michael, I'm the founder of the company. I just wanted to, first of all, introduce myself. Second of all, thank you. Thank you for your 44th order of meal one.
Right.
Thank you for your second order of meal one. I'd love to hear about your experience. So I get data from people that have ordered since day one, and people that just made their first order, and connecting with people that way, and the stories that I've heard. I'm telling you that and it's people that are, fired up CrossFit athletes that found it at their gym, to 65-year-old men and women who someone told them about it and got them off their statins. Literal stories like that, where people are yeah, I started my wellness journey. I spoke to a guy who was 65 years old. He owns a casting warehouse in New England. And he was yeah, some kid that works for me came into the warehouse eating this oatmeal, and knew that I was dealing with some high cholesterol heart issues, and came up to me one day and was hey, you should just try this oatmeal. This could be something that, you should be eating in the morning. Look at me, I'm in great shape. This is what I have every day. And he started eating meal one. And that literally kicked off a complete new journey for this guy. He lost over 100 pounds.
Whoa. He's
off his statins. His cholesterol was at 280. He told me his cholesterol is at a 170. And this guy fucking brought me to tears, man. And so I said, look, the community has spoken. They love this stuff. Let's open up Creatures of Habit to the community and allow them to invest and be an owner with me, and let's build it together. You said $145 million exit. That's the plan, somewhere between 145 and 150 million. If I can get the community, if I can not only have the community stoked about it, using it every single day, allowing them to make better decisions in the morning, changing their lives, let's make them some money too, So we're kicking off a crowdfund, and we're doing it on Start Engine. So anybody listening, if they want to check it out, you can go to Start Engine and check out Creatures of Habit with a K, and you'll learn about it there. But this it's not when we sell it for, or if we sell it for. We are going to sell the company for somewhere between 150 and 200, maybe more, million bucks, and I want to bring the community along with us.
So there was a company that we raised capital for the year after you, and literally yesterday, they did a round. We raised them $4 million out of 30. They raised $30 million at a 135 million valuation yesterday, and wired us money at Elevator Syndicate today, 6 hours ago.
Through a crowdfund?
Through the Elevator Syndicate, through the round that we did for another food and beverage brand.
Wow.
And it just happened literally 6 hours ago. And the press release will come out shortly, but the wires literally happened 6 hours ago.
Wow.
And so when I throw out the number of 145 million, well, 135 million round literally happened today from a brand in our same ecosystem. And so it's very real that you continue building the way that you're building it. And people, by the way, you'll get even higher valuation because it's subscription. Like you get a different multiple for a business when you have subscription, as you know. And so you keep going at the rate you're going. It's really compelling because those valuations are much different than a traditional CPG brand or a food and beverage brand. Okay. Take off the making money and investing money hat, put on the charity hat. Why do you think that brands should have some type of charity element, whether it's public facing or just within their staff to get their employees behind it?
I think mission moves mountains. And as we spoke about a little bit before, I've got a real history with addiction. Our country is experiencing the worst addiction epidemic of all time. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying every year. Yeah. It is the number one cause of death in people 18 to 45 years old in this country, drug overdose. And it's just got worse and worse. And so, in my opinion, every business that I've ever launched has a responsibility component. I find the greatest gratification in helping others. And that could be helping people within the company on the staff, right? That could be just helping other people in my life. But when I'm building a business that's generating revenue and it gives me an opportunity or gives a business an opportunity to give back a piece to actually save someone's life, save someone's life. I mean, how can that not be the greatest thing on the planet? To save someone's life. So Kreatures of Habit, every year we do an event called We'll Wear the Weight, which is our charity event. And we partner with Go Ruck, which is a rucking company that I love. And our foundation partner is the Release Recovery Foundation. And couple hundred people fly from all over the country that are passionate about this, and we meet in New York City. We put on weight vests, and it's called We'll Wear the Weight because for that day we're wearing the weight for those who cannot get out of their own way with addiction. We're taking the weight right off of them. We're putting it on, and we raise money, and we've raised close to $200,000 to get addicts who are struggling, that don't have the means for treatment but want treatment, into treatment. We pay for their whole entire journey. We fly them to the treatment facility. We pay for their treatment. We pay for their post-treatment. We pay for their whatever they need to get on the right path. And we've done that with a number of addicts. And I can honestly say that in itself for me is Kreatures of Habit success, right? Like you said, right? This business will not fail. But in the event another crazy catastrophic things happens in the country and all business, shit goes down, I'm successful. Kreatures of Habit is successful. We have literally saved lives. And so that, in my opinion, is if you're not doing something like that, feeding people, figuring out a way to use the money that you've generated through a business that you're passionate about to help be of service towards others, you're missing. You're missing a really big opportunity and component of what I believe business is, a big responsibility in business. So I think it's just important, and I think guys like you and people probably all of the people that you raise money with look at that, and they're like, hey, these guys are going to do awesome business, but what else are they doing? Is there a component where they're taking off their business hat and participating in real community, So
there's only one question that I ask on every single episode, and I've never gotten the same answer before. I'm not going to get it right now either. One day, you finally sold the company for $145 million, you do another chain, you do a restaurant chain, another couple $100 million, and eventually you've got hundreds of millions of dollars, but unfortunately, you pass away. What percentage of those hundreds of millions of dollars do you leave to those children?
My children? Oof, that's a great question. Well, I guess I'm going to try to make this not a long-winded answer, but I think I have to think about how I ended up in the seat that I'm in today. I got nothing. I didn't get any help from anyone. That gave me grit. That gave me drive. That made me really think. That made me triple, quadruple down on my God-given gift of emotional intelligence. And I would not have had that had I been given a silver platter. And so I haven't really thought of that. What am I going to give my kids when it all goes down? But they're definitely going to get something. My dream and my goal would be that they see their dad and how their dad creates and how their dad builds, that they do the same thing. And you asked me, are you going to open up a restaurant after you sell Kreatures of Habit? And honestly, like secretly, the main reason why I would want to open up a restaurant is to put my kids to work in a restaurant, mm-hmm. because I know working in a restaurant was one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. I wish I had a great answer for you. I wish I could say, I'm not the guy that's going to be like, they're not getting anything. It's all going to charity, because I don't know if I believe in that. I think that's incredible for people to do that. But I do think that, my kids will participate in the money that I've earned. Damn. That's such a hard one. Do you know what you would do now that you're a father?
My answer has been evolving. Mostly because I get to hear, 130 episodes of answers. And I've heard every answer from zero to all of it to everything in between. I would definitely have a structure so that I'm not handing Ariana hundreds of millions of dollars in one shot, because that's cuckoo. But I would like to build her into someone that I trust to run it. Yeah.
I think it's hard to say what percentage of that money I would give, and I'm sure, right? Like 10 years ago, I thought, an old farmhouse in upstate New York was awesome. I now have an old farmhouse in upstate New York, and I can't wait to be in a more modern house, right? Like, sure. Shit changes. Yep. Like our whole, like how we see through our eyes, how we hear things, it changes as we evolve as humans. And so right now, probably I would imagine that I am going to give them a chunk of cash that they're going to have to earn into as they get older. And there is definitely writing and very, very clear directions.
Stipulations, yeah.
That if either one of those kids follows my path of addiction, mm-hmm. there's zero money going anywhere. Sure. So there's going to have to be some sort of a steps and procedures, a standard operating procedure for them to receive money. And like you said, it's not going to be like, yeah. But I would imagine that, I pray to God that my wife outlives me. I'm going to be like, you deal with this. But man, ask me in a couple years after we sell Kreatures of Habit, Do you have any idea what she would say? 0 to 100, not with the 0 to 100%. She would probably, the way my wife is, like, I think she'd probably give it all. She'd probably give it all. Yeah. I think that she would probably, knowing her, she'd want to like give a bunch of charity to like equestrian, like therapy, because she's big into that. Probably to, I imagine that over the course of my career, I'm going to build facilities for addicts. I know that's going to happen for me, that I'm going to be able to build really amazing facilities for addicts to find recovery. Yep. And so I would imagine that's probably going to be 50% of my wealth. And then chances are the family will, as right now, family gets the rest.
50-50, there we go. All right, so tell us, where can people find you on social media? Where can they find Creature of Habit? Tell us everything.
Yeah, so you can find Creatures of Habit at creaturesofhabit.com. It's Creatures of Habit with a K. And just so you know what's in this product, it is a high-protein overnight oatmeal, 30 grams of gluten and glyphosate-free oats, gluten and glyphosate-free oats, 30 grams of plant-based protein, chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds for omega-3 fatty acids, pink Himalayan salt for electrolytes. There's also a probiotic, digestive enzymes, and vitamin D3 in there. It's super easy to make in 30 seconds. It changes, it really does change your morning. And then we make this Creature Sleep, which is a sleep support hot chocolate. So you start your day with meal one, you finish your day with hot chocolate that helps you wind down and get good restful sleep. So creaturesofhabit.com, also online on social media at Creatures of Habit. Remember, it's with a K. And then you can follow along my journey at Michael Chernow everywhere. And this was super fun.
All right, guys, as you know, the core reason for the Money Mondays is to have these discussions with your friends, family, and followers. We grew up thinking it's rude to talk about money. I think that's ridiculous. We have to have discussions about money because it's real life. Taxes, accounting, loans, borrowing money, leases, should I rent, should I buy this? Like, we don't know if we don't talk about it. And so many times we're in massive credit card debt or massive situations because someone didn't talk to us about it, because it was like, oh, you can't say that. You can't ask about salaries. You can't ask about money, or you can't ask about bills, things like that. So have the discussion with your friends, family, and followers. Follow Michael Chernow across social media. Check out Creatures of Habit on social media and creaturesofhabit.com. And we'll see you guys next Monday on moneymondays.com.